Dr. Joan Coleman, and the Xchange is exciting.
I'm Denise Cavalier. The Xchange is real.
I'm Carolyn Poiker. The Xchange is empowering.
I'm Donna Hutchinson. The Xchange is thought-provoking.
The Xchange, a Let Me Be Me podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Xchange. In control, out of control. We don't know. But before we get into it, let's start with our host, Donna
Hutchinson.
Oh, Carolyn Poiker.
Denise Cavalier.
Oh my God, we're so excited to be back here with you guys. Listen, if you're watching the show and something pricks you or something like make you feel a certain way, put it in the comment box and we'll get back to you. All right, we're on CNJN TV, we're on CNJN Facebook page, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. Wherever you need to find the Xchange, just click it in the bar and you will find us. So in control, I'm going to give you the definition of that. Able to direct a situation, person, or activity. And out of control, no longer possible to manage. Unruly, headstrong, not submissive, those kinds of words. So is being in control a good thing after you heard those definitions, or is being out of control a good thing? What do you guys think? Donna, what do you think?
I think being in control is something I struggle with. I like it. I like to do this, but I'm also realizing the less I grip, the easier life flows. So it's very tough because being in control, you feel like you have everything managed and you feel like you can handle everything. You feel safe, but sometimes it's not always great for expansion. That's just my thoughts.
I like that.
I have
expansion.
to agree with that because I was thinking, as you were starting the show, I think I learned the most sometimes in an out of control state where I feel out of control, but I'm expanding. Like Donna said, I'm learning, I'm growing, so I don't have that feeling of having it all tied up. So
I was thinking, sometimes I want to be in control and that feels good, but then the need to be in control sort of dominates, and then it turns it to more of a negative, and I agree. Sometimes when we're out of control, we are growing, expanding. That's a positive.
Yeah, and it sounds good, but people like to be in control. People like to control other people, even when they can't control their own lives, So with that in mind, I'm thinking about when we are parents and we have kids and you tell them to do something and they have their own free will and their own mind and they're like, no, that's not what I want to do. How do you feel inside when you lose that control? When I think about control, that's the first thing I think about. That as an example, like you tell your kid, okay, we want you to go to college, and they're like, no, college is not for me. And then you realize, oh, I have no more control. How do you feel about that? I know your kids are younger.
I was going to say, yeah.
But that was just an example.
No, but that's such a good one because I even pay attention to the power struggle in our house, and I see when the kids want to have their own authority and they want to be in control versus when my husband or I want to, and you just want to just because you're the parent, you want them to listen. And I'm like, is this actually benefiting anyone right now? Or if I just back off and let them feel a little bit like they're in control, this could benefit all of us. So I try to pay attention to that power dynamic and really play with it. Even in a work situation too, you sort of start to feel like who needs that role and where can you fit into that and how can I live in that space. If they need to take that control a little bit, that's fine. Can I, meld myself around that? Sometimes it works out better that way.
Wow. What do you think, Carol?
So I have one who just turned 20 and 2 teenagers, so I have very little control of what's going on in my house. And probably I've been super aware of it for about a year, and it was really hard at first, but I think I'm just reminding myself, like, this is the process. They have to be in control. They have to make these decisions that we're going, oh, no, that's not what I would do. It's part of it. So, no, we're not in control. I'm not in control of my children anymore at all.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have a 21-year-old, and I've had some painful bumps along the road, relinquishing my control and allowing them. It's really painful to watch other people make mistakes, especially your children. But I think that being out of control is about risk taking, whether it's your own taking risks, like you're not going to have some in control solid feeling when you're taking a risk. And to watch your children take risks and make mistakes can be hard. And I've had to get used to that feeling of being out of control.
I've learned that lesson. When my first son was around 17 and he wanted to do something and I was in control. I was like, no, you can't do it. And he was like, I want to do it. And so when I feel like I'm losing control, I turn to my husband. I'm like, tell him he can't do it.
Yeah.
And then my husband told him he couldn't do it. And then he was so upset. I don't know if I told you the story. He was crying. He was like, Mom, let me be a man. And I was like, but I don't know how to let you be a man. And that was when I realized, listen, you have to let go. You have to know that you can't control his entire life. And our job experience is to raise them up and let them go. Let life have them, So do you feel like we control anything? Because I'm thinking we really don't control anything but ourselves. Do you agree with that? Talk about it.
Completely. I think we delude ourselves to think we have control of things and we can manage things. And I think we find safety in that, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but you have to realize, like, nothing is in your control. Even I've started to have, like, anxious-y thoughts, and I'm like, if those things are going to happen, they're just going to happen. I have no control over it. So instead of worrying about it and spending all this time being anxious, there's nothing that's going to happen anyway. And all I'm doing is wasting my time being anxious and trying to grip and force things to happen. So, yeah, it's really about recognizing the spaces our brain can go into and releasing where we can. Yeah.
As you're talking, I'm like, that sounds real good.
I know.
But it's not easy. I mean, what do you feel about it? Can we just relinquish that control? Can we I have control over nothing, so I'm going to let it go. I mean, I know it's hard.
So I was on vacation for 5 days about a week ago, and the second day, I was like patting myself on the back, like, look at me, just letting everything happen, no planning, just like whatever happens. And then like something happened that everything kind of went a little crazy, and I was like, see, you give up control, like stop trying to control, and like it falls apart. So I don't know. I think even though that time I was patting myself on the back thinking it was great, that everything was just sort of free flowing, it was still super hard for me. I mean, I had to like remind myself, just let it happen.
But it is hard. It's
Super
worth
hard.
noting that it is very difficult to exhale.
Yeah.
It seems like the easiest thing, but it is not.
For sure, because there's always those consequences of stuff looming in your mind out there, the what ifs. But I think if you can get yourself to relax, and get your mind to slow down, there's less of that. I always think, when I think of control, I always think of that line in Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Isn't it Nicole Kidman?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember
I don't think I
who
saw
the
that.
actress is, but she's got this English accent, and she looks at him and says, Cole, control is an illusion. And it right? That always rings a bell in my mind, because it really is, right? We're really not in control of very much. And so to remember that is helpful too, to not try to hang on so tight.
Yeah, but do you think people hold on that tight because control is strength? Control is power. I have power over you, and I'm stronger than you. So do you think that's why people fight so hard to have control?
And I think that comes from an insecurity, honestly. I think it comes from, how are they going to make themselves feel safe? Well, if I'm in control of the
Safety.
situation, then I'm safe. So I think a lot of that. I'm sure they feel powerful, but it's probably actually coming from a bit of a fear. I don't want to diminish by saying insecurity, but a deep down fear.
A deep down fear, like a boss, like
Yeah.
a supervisor. They're fearful that they'll lose that control, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And what would happen to them?
yeah, and
That's
it
it.
happened to them, so now they're afraid that they'll lose control. So how do we let go of the need to have control? How do we let go of that need and say, okay, I could be a boss, but I could let it be easy, like Carolyn when she was on vacation. I trust my employees; they're gonna do good without freaking out and without them saying, "Oh, we could run all over this guy." So it's just like a two-edged sword. What do you think, Carol? Sorry.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about more of a boss situation, I think a good boss has to relinquish some control so people have some autonomy, and then they feel like they're really contributing. But I still think all of it's hard. All of it's hard because they're not always going to do it the way you want, but you have to let go because it could be better. Donna, didn't you read me a quote about giving in to the universe or something?
Yeah, just we try to form everything and we block everything that is trying to come into us naturally because we're holding like this. We're gripping.
So
tight.
there's an example of if we are letting go of control, we're allowing the universe to bring us what is meant for us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think trust, right? Trust,
Yeah.
in the universe or God or whatever you believe in. Having that trust is what allows us to release. But that's where all the good creative stuff happens, right? When you trust.
Yeah, trust is very important. Trust that you'll be all right. Trust that you're going to make it. Nothing is that serious. And with that in mind, how important is it for you to have control? How important is it? Very important? Is it a little bit important?
I mean, I'm certainly struggling myself with it. I see it in driving. When my husband drives, I'm like very tight. I'm going to grip 400 times in this episode. Sorry, everyone. But I'm like white knuckle, and I'm like, that's control. You're trying, and you're not in any. So look how much you're struggling. So it's definitely, as much as I'm talking here, like it's very easy, it's definitely still a struggle. But I see with my own personal self, and it is a slow journey. The more you release and the more you start to see like, oh, that was a lot easier. Oh, that was not as emotional. And, sort of starting to let go of the reins. That's when I'm starting to see things flowing in and being much more graceful than the rigidity I feel like I've experienced for so long. So that's just what I've experienced myself.
I'm thinking somehow for me, I don't see myself as like a perfectionist all the time. But sometimes when that tendency comes in, that's when I want more control too. And so it's like releasing that and just saying it's maybe going to be just good enough. Then I can be calmer and less feeling like I need control.
I know that I struggle with control. I mean, my daughter has looked at me and said, "You're so controlling." And some of it isn't really so much about control. It's about, it might be in the environment. Like, I need the dishes done more than once every 5 days, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're like piling up. And that's when I start to feel out of control. When my environment is messy and chaotic. I don't like messy and chaotic. I do like a sense of, and that gives me a sense of peace. But I mean, I don't like flying, and I think one of the reasons I don't like flying, and I've had to fly more recently, and it's helping me a little bit, but it's 'cause there's some dude up there in front of the plane that I don't know, and I don't know if he's okay, and he's flying this thing. So, I've had to let go in situations like that. But I think I am a little controlling, and I'm working on it.
Yeah, I have nobody to control. I'm an empty nester, so they'll just have me to control.
You to
And
control.
sometimes my husband, but we're working on that part. So I love what you said about being out of control. So I'm going to read this poem by Johnny Ox. He wrote, "She isn't spiraling out of control. That's just the way she dances." Right? So what does being out of control look like for you? What does it look like for you?
For me, it feels like, in one definition, sort of ungrounded and sort of having no direction. I actually remember this very well. This was many years ago, laying in bed praying, just sort of being like, where is the path? What am I supposed to do? Where am I going? And I heard clear as a bell, get control of yourself. So see, where there can be benefit. Because I felt like I was just like kind of reaching and grabbing and thrashing around, and that's when I get myself into trouble. There needs to be some sense of, it's funny, I woke up this morning thinking about being, not the word control, in charge of myself, in charge of my body, in charge of my emotions, and not feeling pulled away. So there is a dance with that out of control where it can benefit, but also there needs to be some sense. So that's a tough one.
Oh.
So the other day I felt very out of control, and I think I even used those words to my husband. I had just come back from the trip. And so, the car needed to be unpacked. There was laundry to do. There was all the stuff you didn't get done that you wanted to before you left. And I was like, I feel so out of control. This is bad. But then I was like, wait a minute. If I just sort of release this all and just start doing what, I want to do, it can be a good thing. And for me also, when I'm out of control and it's out of the control of my kids and I've accepted that, then I can actually focus and get some stuff done. So I did one of those, it took me 3 years and 45 minutes
Oh, yes.
because I was like
Procrastinate.
letting go of other people
Yeah.
and saying, okay, what can I do that can help me?
I don't know. To me, like, I look at out of control in two different ways. In a good, like, fun way, like where I'm releasing and I'm having a good time, and it's fun. But then there's that side of out of control where I'm really stressed out. I'm trying to achieve something. I'm not trusting the process. I'm fearful, totally in fear and not trusting. And usually that's a sign for me to back away, back off, take your shoes off, walk out in the grass, walk out in the field, take some pictures. So there's kind of two. There's a fun out of control and then a not fun out of control where I'm losing it and I need to back away.
It's so amazing that when we think of out of control, we think about losing it, we think about not being grounded, but who made up these definitions? Who's to say control is better than out of control? Who's to say that? Because listen, all right, so I've been doing this thing, right? I'm like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta go to the bank, I gotta do this, and then I say, you know what? I'm just gonna go to bed, forget about it, let Jesus take care of it. That's how I talk. Let Jesus take care of it. And I go to sleep. And the next day, lo and behold, everything is okay. It's taken care of. I don't have to worry about ways are made somehow, And I'm like, I control nothing. All I have to do is relinquish it and spiral, do the dance and just be fine, But people don't want to give that up. It's just in us to just have this control. But if we breathe, I wrote a journal, and in the journal it says, one of the thing I wrote was, I did my best and I left the rest. And that's one of the thing you have to write, what you did and what did you leave. And so I've learned from that. I put that in the journal. I'm like, so when things come up that I want to control, I did my best. Okay, I washed the clothes, but I didn't get to put them away. I'll leave the rest for another time. And so if we look at it like that, if we kind of breathe and just let it go, and it's not easy, whatever we're saying here is not easy. It's a practice.
Yes.
It's a practice. So what are some things we can control? And then we're going to talk about tips to letting go. I want to start with you. What are some things that we can control?
Well, I do know what I can't control, and that's other people's behavior. So one of the things that I can control is my own reaction
I love it.
to other people's behavior. Like if, somebody hurts me, or I can control what I do with that. Yep.
What about
That's
you,
a good
Pam?
one. I think I can control what I say yes to, what I say no to, and my schedule, so that I'm taking care of me, taking care of what needs to get done, and that's something I can definitely control.
That's very good.
Yeah, and a combination of what you both said too is like, how much pressure am I going to put on myself? Am I checking in with myself to say, whoa, hold on, what are we doing? Why are we spiraling? Controlling your emotions. And again, this has been after a very long journey of just being like, not everything needs to be dramatic. Not everything needs to be at 120,000% of importance. It's all just mostly nonsense. And if we could put all of that down and realize simplicity in that we're not here to just grind out, we're actually meant to breathe and let God unfurl, life gets a whole lot easier. But we get caught in our head and our emotion and trying to please others and all of that stuff. Once you put all that down, life is good.
It's so funny because most of that stuff is ingrained in us from birth. Like we're like older now, so we can't say, oh, we just learned. I mean, it's stuff that's in us, and it's stuff you got to like weed whack. You got to get rid of slowly and just till you get rid of it. And who knows if you'll ever get rid of it. You know what I mean? So it's a process.
I also think they become addictions. Things like guilt, which has absolutely no structure for us, and it's a complete human condition, doesn't serve us in any way, and yet we default to it because that's what we've been taught. We've been taught to feel guilty your whole life. If you don't serve everyone all the time, you should feel guilty. When it's doing nothing for any of us.
That's such
so
a good
think of how
one.
much wasted space you're creating just by holding on to that old addictive conditioning, and you have to pay attention to catch those patterns because you fall into them so easy because it's all you know.
I love that. That's a good one because I'm struggling with that right now. There's this thing happening. Oh, we should be there. We want everybody there, be there. And I'm like, but I'm going to the gym, And then you feel guilty, like, but I've been there. I've done that. I've been there. I did my time. Yeah, I want to do this. So even so, being out of control or not doing what someone wants you to do, it could be freeing if you say no. No is not a bad word. If you say, no, I don't want to do that, I'm going to do this, instead of feeling guilty. And that's where I am. I'm feeling guilty because I'm not going to be there. And no, I don't want to be there. I'm not going to be there, but I feel guilty because, maybe I should be there, but I don't want to be there. So in saying that, what is the thing that you were spiraling and out of control with that you feel like, okay, I got to stop? What was the last thing you felt out of control with?
Probably emotions. I've used that example before, but really seeing once I start to strip emotions of guilt and just these things that do not serve us, and the more I pull back away and saying no is okay because it's not up to me. It's not my responsibility. Like the more I release those sort of things, the gentler I feel, and then I could serve better because I'm coming from a more peaceful place. So, who is guilt serving?
Right.
Oh, for me, it's definitely one of my kids right now, and watching the decisions he's making that, I know from experience that it's not going to be good. But I will say I'm still a little bit, maybe 20%, I'm in there saying, no, right now I'm not actually letting you choose that. I am taking control and making you, but that 80% I'm giving him. It's hard.
I think for me, the last time I can think of is spiraling, like based on somebody else's behavior, like something they were doing, their behavior that I felt impacted me, and feeling sort of, caught up in that spiral and reacting to it. And I actually did sort of achieve a, step up on that and taking control of what I could control, which was my reaction, and moving forward with an appropriate reaction that didn't keep me in that spiral.
I was just going to ask you guys that. You know how we're like, oh, you say no, you take control. What happens to you when someone tells you no? Like, do you spiral? Or you're like, how does it affect you when you're told no? Or not given the opportunity that you wanted?
I mean, I've really recently realized, I have to be okay if people are mad if I say no, and then it would have to be vice versa. That would be your own issues to deal with. I'm sure it would hurt and you feel your emotions, but what are you going to do? You can't control others in those scenarios, and you got to be okay with their reactions too, and know it's not your responsibility.
You said you can't control others. See those words in there?
People say no all the time to me, not just my kids either, for other stuff you're involved in, and it's terrible and it hurts, and some parts of it's like a rejection.
Yeah.
Some parts of it, then you're feeling more out of control. It's hard. It's really hard, but sometimes there's opportunities there too, so.
Yeah, I guess the ego, the ego's always there, ready to react to somebody telling you no. But I really think the base reason why we try to control is because deep down we know we're not in control. And so it's just that constant, grasping for safety and, being able to keep things going the way we need to, and it's all connected to the ego because we want things to go the way we need them to go to feel good. So
that is so good, you ladies. That is so good. And I was thinking, like, when things don't go our way, or when kids are doing something, you're like, why are they doing that? What's wrong with them? Think about when you were a kid, because it's so funny. I would say, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that. And then the Spirit would bring back to my remembrance, like, sister, you used to do
Yes.
you did the same exact thing.
And worse.
And then I'm like, then I'll be like, okay, all right, I get it. Gotta let them do what they gotta do, So it's like we've been there, done that, but we forget. So when we see our kids doing it or somebody else, and we're like, oh, I can't believe they're doing that. And then you remember, oh, okay, I did that. I did that too.
I think often about how little control you have as a child.
Yeah.
And I think that's why as adults we're like, no, this is how I want it. Because, for a long time, those formative years, you had no control over nothing. What you ate, when you slept, So we're trying to gain it back a little. What can we say?
All right, we have a few minutes left. Let's give some tips about, how to handle not being in control.
Just the letting go exercises, you mean? I don't know. To me, it's always about stepping back, taking a break, like when I feel myself clenching over something, and just doing something that's freeing for me to give my mind a rest. And so I can gain a perspective. And maybe a lot of times it's the other person's perspective, just releasing and breathing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like to write a list and then prioritize and also think about how you're spending your time, because then you can get a sense of maybe what's contributing to your out of control feelings.
Right. I mean, even this sounds, but a basic body scan to notice how much are you holding, where are you tense. I've heard this recently and I like it. Where are you holding the sword, and where can you put the sword down? Like waiting for that fight or defense.
Yeah.
No, where can you put it down, and how much better will you feel once you do?
Yeah, so I want to just remind you, things we can control. We can control ourselves, we can control our attitudes, we can control our thoughts, and we could control the way we spend time worrying. Stop worrying. You can't control anything. Worrying changes nothing. So put that down. And things that when you're out of control, it gives you a sense of freedom. Maybe, you feel a little freer. It's hard, but you feel a little freer. You could let go of doubt, worry, fear, power. When you lose control, and you will feel alive. That's what they say. Lose control and live in the unknown. Stop worrying so much about things, all right? And so I'm with
Donna Hutchinson.
Carolyn Poiker.
Denise Cavalier.
And I'm Dr. Joan Coleman. This is the Xchange. We're here to empower, to uplift, to encourage, to inspire, and to motivate you. And of course, we're here to love on you. Put in the comment box, watch us, like us, share, and we'll be back next time with a brand new episode. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye-bye.